Hello. Tough spot in the lineup right before lunch and behind Amy and Linda. Is that what y'all were thinking? Luckily, I usually teach 2-year-olds to 5th graders, so I'm usually to the point. Anyway, glad to be here with y'all today, and kind of what Jonathan and Rebecca had asked me to talk about was just discerning kind of how you're made and your giftings and things, and so that's where we're going. So, our goal, I think one of Jonathan's goals is to equip people to have a successful, lifelong walk with Jesus. And so what Amy touched on, is it working? I'll keep talking. Into the mic. You want me to hold it? I won't fidget that way then. All right. So the goal, one of Jonathan's goals, I would say, is that right, is equipping people to have a successful walk with Jesus lifelong. And knowing the character of God, like Amy talked about, is really important in that. And like Linda talked about, knowing and discerning God's voice is really important as we walk through his life, this life with him. But also just understanding how we're made and that we're called individually, and the beauty and complexity of that, I think, is important in our lifelong walk with Jesus. So as of December 2017, there are 7.6 billion people on planet Earth. And out of these 7.6 billion individuals, each of them are purposefully created by God. And out of all those 7.6 billion people, you are unique. And God made you because he wanted you on this earth. And there's no one like you. And that's so, so, so important. Being in the medical profession, it's super cool how different people are and how they're made. You're made different physically. How your brain works is different. Your laugh, if you snort when you laugh. I mean, there's just also wonderful things about people, and God designed it that way. And Psalm 139 speaks to this. He says, you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body, and all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And so I just want to encourage you that you're supposed to be here on this earth. You're not a mistake. He made you to be in relationship with him. That was his first priority and goal. But then he made you to do some stuff on this earth. And it's really cool to follow him in that. And some of how he made you, your personality, even sometimes our physical features, and also our giftings that he put in us, help us along that journey and the specific things he's called us to be and do. And also, there's such a beauty. Each of us carries a different facet, and we're supposed to be ambassadors on this earth and reflect the beauty and the wonder of God. And the way he's designed us and the intricacies and all of that are just reflecting to the world his beauty. I have friends that are absolutely hilarious. I'm a more serious person, get to the point. I'm not the fun of the party, honestly. And those people, I so cherish those people that are fun and hilarious, because God is fun and he's hilarious. And so I really enjoy that aspect of some of my friends. And so I just want you to know that you're made by God, made to be in relationship with him, and made for his purposes on this earth. And each of us have individual purpose that he's put us here for. And one encouraging thing, I think, is that in Revelation it says not only did he make us, but he was pleased to do so. He's not just like cranking out more people up there. He's excited about it. He's pleased that you're here, that you're who you are. And so if you don't know that, I mean, spend some time dwelling and thinking of it. If you don't know that you're made by a loving God for a purpose on this earth, and that he wants you here, and that he's so glad he made you, please come talk to me or someone else afterwards, because it's so, so important. And it's important to know and be rooted in that truth, especially as we go on through life. Otherwise, we're just drifting, trying to find our purpose and significance, and you just get lost. And you try everything out, you end up in places you didn't think you were supposed to go. There's a song that's out that I just love the words, and it says, "The King of Heaven wants me, and this earth has lost its grip on me." I'm able to go and do what God's called me to do because the King of Heaven loves me, and the world does not matter. So I think the first thing about understanding that God's called us and made us and all of is just really soaking in that truth, and then following Jesus. You know, he calls people individually. Just like he called the disciples, he said, "Hey, come follow me." And he's calling each of you to say, "Come follow me." And he's got cool paths to take you on, and they look different than other people's paths. So part of what makes us unique is our giftings. And these are special things deposited in us by the Lord. We didn't earn them anyway. They're just put in us. And often there is some scriptural basis that giftings can or are put in us before birth. So an example is the prophet Jeremiah. And in Jeremiah 1:5, it says, "The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." So before Jeremiah was even around, in his mom's womb, he was appointed. He had that prophetic, bent. That's what the Lord had determined for him to do. Similarly, with John the Baptist, it's recorded in Luke 1:17 that before John's birth, the angel of the Lord told John's father, Zechariah, that John would go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah. So referencing Elijah, who was a prophet and had a prophetic gifting. So there's things that the Lord has put in us, and it's fun to discover more about that. So what are the giftings mentioned in the Bible, and where are they found? So the giftings mentioned in the Bible are described in Romans 12 and 1 Corinthians 12. In Romans 12, 6 through 8, it describes the gifts, and I'll just read them, of prophecy, serving, teaching, encouraging, leading, and showing mercy. And some people classify these as the motivational gifts. And in 1 Corinthians 12, 8 through 10, it speaks of wisdom, knowledge, faith, healing, miraculous powers, prophecy, distinguishing of spirits, speaking in tongues, and interpretation of tongues. And so in 20 minutes, there's no way, that's for a later day and a cool study about each gifting and how they're divided and all that. Main take-home point is there's something God's put in you, and it's really cool. So find out what it is. And often it's a mix of giftings. It's not just one. And my experience has been in walking through life, different giftings emerge that I didn't have, or didn't know I had, or I'm using different ones at different times. So it's not necessarily a static thing, I don't think. So scripturally, what does the word say is the purpose of the giftings? Why did he give us these things? This is one of the simplest statements in the Bible. In 1 Corinthians 12:7, it says that, "Now to each the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good." So that's a very simple. It's given for our edification as a body. These giftings, the gifting he's put in Linda is for the edification of the body. And also in 1 Peter 4:10, it says, "Each of you should use whatever gift you've received to serve others as faithful stewards of grace in various forms." So one of the other purposes of the giftings is to serve others. So to encourage and edify the body for the common good and to serve others. So I think, if I have a gift and the Lord has given me something, I want to know, okay, what do I do with this thing? How do I use it? How does he want me to use it? What are the parameters on that? So a lot of times, in Scripture, the giftings are in chapters, and it's important what's around those lists. So we find, and I thought this was really cool, in Romans 12, where it lists the giftings, the first verse of that chapter says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your body as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." So I'm thinking, my gifting, the first and primarily thing is it's an act of worship. If I've been giving the gift of giving and I'm a generous person, when I give, I'm worshiping God with how he made me, who he is. I'm giving back to him what he gave to me. And I think that's awesome to know that when you have a gifting, it's not for your own enjoyment or to make $1 million because you're a teacher. It's to edify the body and to worship Jesus. You're a living sacrifice, and you're just offering back to him what he gave you. And it's a sacrifice. And sometimes it is literally a sacrifice to do what he's called us to do or to put inside of us. And then later in Romans 12, we're encouraged to exercise our giftings in humility. It says, "For the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but think of yourself with sober judgment according with the faith God has distributed to each of you." We're to exercise our giftings with humility. When we serve, it should be with humility. When we teach, if we prophesy, it's in humility of a humble heart. We have done nothing to earn these giftings, and so we're presenting it humbly. Another verse after in Romans 12:2 that gives us a clue of what's the spirit behind how we're supposed to use our giftings is that our giftings flow out of love for God and love for others. In Romans 12:9-10, it says, "Love should be sincere, hate what's evil, cling to what's good, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourself." So again, if we're encouraging someone, it's because we love God and we want to see people grow, and we love that person and we want to see them encouraged. I think in 1 Corinthians 12, where the other list of giftings are, what follows 1 Corinthians 12? 1 Corinthians 13. And that's a famous chapter, right? And it's the love chapter, I don't think that's coincidence that that's after the giftings. We're to exercise our giftings in love. And in fact, in that chapter, it says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or angels but do not have love, I'm a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give my body over to hardship that I may boast but not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices in the truth. It protects, trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And skip down, it says, and these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest is of love. It's our giftings are to be used in love, in humility, and as living sacrifices and worship to the Lord. So I guess some of you might be asking, what I don't know, what if I don't know what giftings the Lord has given me? And I'd say, don't sweat it. It's okay. If you look and you see, what did Jesus ask the disciples to wait for before they went out? He asked for them to wait to the Holy Spirit, right? to go and do his work. He didn't say, figure out your gifting and mature in it and then go out. He said, no, wait for my Spirit and then go. Our walk with the Lord is to wait for his Spirit and go in love and humility in serving others. It's awesome to have giftings, and it's really cool when he allows you to serve in a spot where you can use that gifting, because it's so much easier than when you're in a spot that does not require that gifting as much. But he says go. I know a lot, especially when I was younger and in college, you're in that introspective time trying to figure out who I am and what purpose do I have on this earth. That was, there's a lot of talk of giftings and all that stuff. And just don't miss that. Just go, do. And a lot of times those giftings will emerge as you're out serving or leading or just being obedient to the Lord. You'll recognize that. You might recognize it by you're doing something, and it's really easy, and other people think it's hard. They think it's hard, and you're like, That's because you're probably operating or walking in your gifting in that area, or maybe you have a supernatural joy to do that, and other people are just in there kind of doing it because they're obedient. That might be a clue that you have a gifting in that area. So they'll emerge over time, serve, jump in, try new things, follow Jesus, and see what comes out. But you could ask others what they see in you. A lot of times other people can kind of note what you might be gifted in. And then there are some tests online to do that, little spiritual gift tests that you can do if you're interested about how the Lord might have made you. There's some free ones, and they're usually pretty accurate. And again, don't worry and focus so much on your giftings and got to get this right before you go do. Just follow the Lord. He'll bring out what needs to be brought out in a season of time to accomplish his purposes. And I would just encourage you to work on your relationship with the Lord and godly character and being committed to Jesus. It's in 2 Chronicles, it says that the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen what? People that are great teachers or people that are prophesying like crazy. No, it says that his eyes range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. So wherever you are in your walk, I would say, we all have this window of time that we're dedicating, we've got, delve into your giftings and find out about them. It is always good to know ourselves and how the Lord's made us, but spend the bulk of your time getting to know Jesus and developing godly character. So I had a few, this is what I call random, hopefully practical wisdom that I'll wrap up with. And that is, your value is not from your gifting or where your gifting takes you. So I love Beth Moore, and she ministers to a lot of women. But her value is not in that she teaches millions of women. Her value is that she's a daughter of the King, And that's true of all of us as well. I would also say avoid the trap of comparison. There are some gifts that are flashier, like prophesying or teaching even, because you're in front of people usually when you're doing that. But the serving and giving are gifts, and they're equally important. They're necessary for the body, and the Lord is honored by that, and he notices the servers and the givers, and it is no less important. So I think sometimes it's easier, those giftings, because they're not seen, so you're less likely to be trapped into pride. I don't know. The other thing I would say is don't get pigeonholed into something. I've grown up in the church, and, some people talk about giftings, and so, I'm a teacher, so I'm just going to have to teach. No, try other things. This is a funny story, and the guy would die if he heard me say it, but when my husband and I were in our 20s, and which was just yesterday, and we were at a leadership thing at our church, and this guy who has he's a pastor, and he's called to, preach and do all that, for sure. It was obvious from young, and from that time even, and he has a church now. But we were cleaning up afterwards, and my husband and I were vacuuming, and said, we're in med school at the time, so we'd really like to get out of the meeting and get home. So we go, hey, I won't mention his name. You want to help us clean up? And he literally said, I don't really have the gift of serving. And I just kept on vacuuming. You're going to be stronger in other areas, but we're called to serve. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. So don't get pigeonholed into this tight thing about that. And the other thing is, so this may surprise you. Nobody comment if they know me, but when I take the test of spiritual giftings, mercy is not, it is not my top gifting. But you know what? I want to be merciful because Jesus is merciful. I eagerly desire to be merciful. And I'm trying to be that way and asking the Lord to make me, because that's part of his character. I don't have the option to not be merciful. Now, is it naturally flow out of me? No. I have to work at it. And I'm proud to say that after a couple years of repeating the gift, I've gone up by a couple points. All right. Also on my, not my top easiest thing is encouragement. It just doesn't flow out of me that often. But you know what? I have a husband that needs to be encouraged. I have children that need to be encouraged. I have coworkers that need to be encouraged, employees that need to be encouraged. People are dying and despairing and hopeless, and there need to be people that speak truth and life. So I'm going to do it. I am not an encourager, naturally, but I'm committing myself to do it because people need it. And that's in God's heart, too, and his character. He's always speaking love and encouragement over us. And so how many minutes do I have? Anyway, 4 more. Okay. So just don't, if you do a giftings test, that doesn't absolve you from other things. And just don't get pigeonholed or stagnant. And I would say also, just use your gifting where you are. I run the children's ministry at our church. I like it when people that don't have the gift of teaching are teaching. It's okay. Now, their class, you can tell who the teachers are when you walk by because the kids are sitting on the carpet and they're quiet and the classroom's awesome. But I love when those prophetic people get in there and or an encourager, exhorter that are in there in the classroom. And I had a friend that was helping me teach, and she's an exhorter. She was really frustrated. And I said, well, I don't say her name, but I said, run the class like an exhorter. Don't try to run it like a teacher, and she did, and it was good, and she was able to speak life and encourage these kids, which is what they needed. I have some people that are working with me now that are more prophetic. Man, we need the prophetic in the classroom and speaking prophetic words over these kids. And so wherever you are, you don't have to necessarily just use your gifting where you are, and this can bring wonderful diversity into our ministries. And then the other thing is surround yourself with others with different giftings and learn from them. I love learning from my friends that are encouragers, how to encourage people. You can always grow in any area, and so surround yourself with people that are different. Learn from people that can serve. Take note of them. It is a good thing to grow in that. Let's see, what else? Yeah, that might be it. I was joking with my husband that he always has smooth tapering off, and there's a point I just say what it says and crash land. So really, I don't have a good closing other than 1 Corinthians 1:7 says, therefore, you do not lack any spiritual gift as you wait for the Lord Jesus Christ to be revealed. On the journey he has for you in life, which is fun and intricate and will take you places that you've never been or maybe would want to go, he will equip you. You won't lack what you need, and he'll equip it in the season you need it. So that's it.